Well, this got loud and escalated real quick over the last 24 hours or so. Tonight, protests coast to coast against Israel's war on Hamas. That was San Francisco this morning. Pro-Palestinian demonstrators calling for a ceasefire. They began blocking the Bay Bridge leading into San Francisco, going west. Now, that protest ended a few hours ago. At least 50 people arrested, according to our Next Star station there in San Francisco, KRON 4. Now, here in Washington, the fallout continues after protesters last night surrounded the headquarters of the Democratic National Committee. Now, those protests, as you see there, became violent. Several congressmen who were inside the building had to be evacuated. U.S. Capitol Police responded to the incident, saying the group was not peaceful and continually disobeyed orders to move on back. That the scene here in Washington last night. Hello to you all. We have seen demonstrations, peaceful and not peaceful, over the last week or so. Here on the Mall earlier this week on Tuesday, a couple 100,000 protesting on behalf of Israel. Peaceful, calm. They came, they made their point. We heard from lawmakers, and that was it. Over the past few weeks, though, we've seen the gates of the White House shaken by pro-Palestinian demonstrators. You saw that at the DNC last night and on the Bay Bridge in San Francisco today. Two totally different ways to go about it.
Truly. And one point I want to make about the DNC headquarters for folks that aren't in D.C. all the time. It is not as, it's got some security there. There's a couple magnetometers and some Capitol Police that surround the place. But it's not the U.S. Capitol or the White House in terms of security. And there are a lot of lawmakers in there in a situation that could potentially be very, very dangerous for them. And I want to say, Blake, as someone who looks at how hot this is getting across the country, I take a step back. I'm a very strong supporter of Israel's right to defend itself and to go after Hamas and root out Hamas and destroy it. I'm also empathetic with folks that are concerned about innocent Palestinians, but it does not help your cause to be calling for a ceasefire that frankly can't happen because Hamas is not going to abide by it.
Right.
And secondly, to do so in such a way that I think does not ingratiate yourself to lawmakers or anyone else who looks at these kind of videos. So I'm sympathetic to the cause to some degree. This is the wrong way to go about it.
You know, I'll just add that U.S. Capitol Police are probably among the most attuned to what a peaceful protest is of any police force in the country.
Well, that was part of their statement today.
This was violent and illegal. I trust them. I mean, I think a lot of people put a lot of credibility.
Well, to that point, Lauren, let's just hope that AG Merrick Garland and the DOJ go after those protesters in the way that they went after January 6th, because it is a federal offense to assault a U.S. Capitol Hill police officer. And remember, 6 of them were injured. But I do know, and it's likely not going to happen, that if there aren't any more punishment or any more charges, then we're going to know that justice in this country is based on your political ideology or your political affiliation.
Do you think Merrick Garland needs to go?
They made 50 arrests. They didn't make any arrests on January 6th. So that's a false comparative.
They made one arrest. One arrest.
I thought I read that they made 50
One arrest, 6 officers hurt.
Okay, well, DOJ can certainly investigate that. We certainly can't investigate it or prognosticate about comparing January 6th to this small protest. I think they're comparable. But I think justice has to be even. Merrick Garland and the federal police would do their jobs. And it's in our collective interest, not political interest, to keep all of us safe. And violent protesters, that doesn't move the ball forward at all.
I think the 50, by the way, was in California today, on the Bay Bridge.
Forgive me.
But my point is very simple, is if you don't have consequences for actions, this is going to continue. And Blake, it's not just about what's going on with Hamas, okay? We've seen this same pattern, whether it's BLM or it's Antifa. And essentially, Democrats in this country turn their cheek when this type of violence breaks out. And because right now the Democratic Party is fractured over Israel, they're not going to say or do anything in response.
Dan or Scott, I'll let you get the last word.
Well, I'll just say that I think if you watched the video last night, there were a ton of folks there that were singing songs and lighting candles. And then there were some people that were clearly doing illegal things and acting in a violent way. The Capitol Police said as much. And if that happened, and there's evidence of that, and I think there probably will be, Scott, Ford, then those folks should be prosecuted. I'm sorry, Scott. They should be prosecuted, and I agree with that. But that doesn't mean it's the same incident as January 6th. It's very different.
That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is that there's a pattern of when it affirms democratic ideology, essentially law enforcement does not pursue and punish the people. And that is my problem. And again, the Hamas riots are just like BLM and just like Antifa. And why do they keep going on? Because no one stops them.
That's not true. Antifa's just got a mission, and they tend to be more agitated and more violent than other groups, if you will.
So shaking the White House is not agitated or violent?
Well, I don't. Of course that is. And they're going to be investigated and be prosecuted. But Black Lives Matter, for example, they had peaceful protests in D.C., and there were no arrests, I think, a year or so ago, or 2 years ago.
All right. Well, thank you for watching. And make sure you go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.